Here. So, hello, happy Thursday, everybody. This is Jojo Bennington, and this is the Empowering Healthy Women weekly 30-minute check-in, and just here to help and support, get the girls together to have a chat every week about girl stuff. And so me and my beautiful blondie partner down there, Miss Liddy Flom. Say hello, Liddy. We get together every week to talk about girl stuff and just talk about things that are important to us and have a little bit of a check-in. So I even have my PJs on and my hot tea and my fuzzy socks. So this is how we're doing this tonight. And we have a really interesting topic tonight, and it gets brought up a lot, and we hear it a lot, and we wonder if it's a buzzword or if there's really something to this adrenal thing. And so let's delve in. You guys ready for this? So I would grab a pen and a piece of paper to go along with your fuzzy socks and your tea. So just to make sure that if there's anything you hear that you want to keep for later, and we are recording, so if you guys want to go back to this, that we hear a lot about adrenal fatigue. I sometimes, especially being a health coach, will see people often, and my first suspicion with what's going on with them not only is just lack of nutrition, but is also potentially adrenal fatigue. And it's one of those controversial little topics that is interesting. So I don't know, does everybody know what an adrenal gland is or where they even are in your body? Do you know where your adrenals are? Anybody know? They actually sit right above your kidneys. It's funny because for almost my whole life until a few years ago, I thought they were up here in my neck. It wasn't until 6-7 years ago I found out that they were actually not there. But they do amazing things. So they're like thumb size. They're like this big, and they sit right above our kidneys, and they're part of our endocrine system. They really are involved in producing over 50 hormones that drive almost every bodily function that we have. Is that crazy? But, we know hormones affect everything, our organs, our tissues. And so when our adrenal glands are either overreacting or underreacting, then obviously we can have an issue. But they work closely with our hypothalamus, and they work with our pituitary gland system. And they also help to reduce cortisol, so in our normal function. So the problem is that sometimes they get overtaxed, and they help to produce too much cortisol, which we all know that too much cortisol is not good for our bodies. It's also not very good for our little belly fat. But when our adrenals also play a huge role in our stress response. So has anybody heard of a fight or flight mechanism, right? Something happens and we get all amped up, we feel that adrenaline rush, and then your body goes into that fight or flight mode. So you're either here or you're running, right? So you're either standing in an attack or you're running away from the bear, whichever one it is, right? But that's what our adrenals help to modulate. So they're responsible for balancing our hormones, different ones. We could talk about them all day long, right? Adrenaline, epinephrine, our sex hormones, hormones that help us maintain healthy blood pressure, hormones that help our blood sugar, hormones that help our metabolism. So all of these things. So that's the basic of what an adrenal gland does and what its function is. Liddy, do you want to add anything to what its function is before we move on to some of the icky stuff that it does when it's not in balance? Here, let me unmute you. Okay, there you go.
Well, so Jojo, first of all, I just think that you just hit it on point, and I think that a lot of times we don't really understand, you know, like the whole adrenal function. Some people just say, you know what, I just ache and I have I got a sore back. Well, that would be a symptom. And lower back pain is usually an indicator that your adrenals are in overdrive. And so, Jojo said they sit on top of your kidneys. So sometimes we don't even know where the kidneys are. So let's just think about this, like in your whole lower pelvic area, kind of like your kidneys kind of like sit there. And then right on top of that is where the adrenals are. So Jojo, I just wanted to like point that out, because sometimes it's like, okay, where's that? And then where's
the kidney, right? So it's sort of like if you put your fingers underneath your rib cage right in the front, that's sort of where they are. Sort of.
Yeah.
In there somewhere.
Yeah. And I always like to, like for me, like in word pictures. So what happens when this whole cortisol thing takes place and we're in overdrive? And of course, it's a stress factor. So then everything starts to constrict itself. So we don't even digest our food properly. So sometimes it shows up like I have indigestion, I have anxiety, I can't manage things. I'm feeling like I'm kind of like, you know, pacing on a kind of like I'm nervous, like I can't control my feelings, like I, you know. And so then all of a sudden, and then we have like this little, I don't even know where this camera is, but sometimes this whole picture about like what happens to the body, and all of a sudden I'm carrying all this excess weight. And so, and then that shows up oftentimes, you know, perimenopause, menopausal, postmenopausal. So we get into this whole women's, you know, hormonal cycle, but your adrenals are in charge of, like, they're your stress reliever. They're kind of like the center that takes over after we go through menopause. So, but if your adrenals are on burnout and they're exhausted, we call it adrenal exhaustion, that they can't take over that function. And so what happens is that there's this conversation happening with your ovaries saying, listen, I'm ready to retire. It's our time. We have a backup system. And then the adrenals are like, oh no, you're way on burnout. There's no backup system here. So you go, you can do your thing another month and try to cycle another month. And all of a sudden, then there's this like two messages coming together, and it's called hot flash. Okay, that's adrenal exhaustion. And so now we have night sweats, and you know, I want to take my clothes off, and I gotta put them on because I'm freezing. And you know,
so let's wait 1 second. Let's start with fatigue before we go to exhaustion. So let's start at the bottom level of where it goes, right?
Okay,
let's start there first. So if that's okay. So let's go with adrenal fatigue. So when we look at cortisol release, so like what could create something like that? Like maybe the death of a loved one, or divorce, or maybe surgery, you know, constant negative thinking and emotional trauma. Like nobody's having stress, right? We don't drive down the road and get stressed because somebody cuts us off. So bad relationships, a bad work environment, poor diet. Did you know that crash diets or inconsistent nutrition could really put us in adrenal fatigue? Constant pain. So if you have chronic pain, food sensitivities. If you rely on stimulants and caffeines, it can actually help to increase adrenal fatigue. But some of the symptoms, so Lydia, you were talking about symptoms. So autoimmune conditions, chronic fatigue, are you always tired? Brain fog, are you feeling not clear? Hair loss, hormone imbalance, weakened stress response, insulin resistance, lightheadedness, decreased sex drive, moodiness, irritability, depression, muscle and bone loss, skin ailments, not sleeping good, weight gain. So we look at a lot of these things sometimes and we go, okay, that's totally menopause, but it could actually be adrenal fatigue, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm. And absolutely. You can have actually early menopause. And, you know, menopause should be happening in our 50s. And there are, you know, let's just say there are parts of sectors of women in the world that never have a hot flash. And you have to ask, like, why not? Mm-hmm. And it's because that they don't have adrenal fatigue, adrenal exhaustion. And yes, has everything to do with communication. So perfect. Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And so when we get into adrenal fatigue and we start to think about all of those things that are happening, we have to think about how we can support our adrenal glands. So right now we're in February, which is our heart healthy month, and we're looking at meditation and slowing down and being silent and breathing and all of the things that we sort of miss out on because we're running around crazy all the time. But actually, breath and meditating and slowing down and being silent for a little while can actually help your adrenals by reducing the amount of stress in your system. But you can also do an adrenal fatigue diet, which is reduce the caffeine, reduce the sugars, reduce even artificial sweeteners, get into something that's more alternative like raw honey or stevia, and really to reduce the amount of inflammation causing foods. So carbohydrates that are very inflaming. So we're talking like starchy carbs, right? Not fruits and vegetables, because different kind of carbs. We're talking about the actual starchy carbs, like flours and pastas and breads and potatoes and things that really are inflaming to the body. Microwaved foods can cause an issue. Processed meats can cause an issue. So we want to really look at sticking to grass-fed beef, free-range chickens and turkeys, things that aren't being affected by hormones and antibiotics. Hydrogenated oils can actually affect your adrenal glands. So if you look at like some of the top things that really can help support your adrenal glands: coconut, olives, avocados and healthy fats, cruciferous vegetables. So do you guys all know like cruciferous vegetables, Brussels sprouts and cauliflower and broccoli and cabbage, and also fatty fish, free-range chicken, bone broth, all different kinds of nuts, walnuts especially, and seeds, pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, all of these different things, plus Himalayan sea salt. If anybody, please add Himalayan sea salt into what you're doing, or the Celtic salt is also good. And fermented foods, and we've talked a lot about probiotics on this call, and so we have a lot of stuff that we've done that you could go back and look at about adding in probiotics and maybe some apple cider vinegar to help with your gut health. And so that's just fatigue. But what happens when we get, there's actually, what's really cool, Lydia and I work with a nutritional system, and almost every single thing that they recommend nutritionally for adrenal fatigue is actually already in what we're doing every day. Licorice root and fish oil, magnesium, selenium, lavender, aptogenic herbs, ashwagandha, rhodiola, all these amazing things we're already working with every day. So when we really look at how we can support ourselves, Lydia, you and I are, I'm pretty proud of how good we're doing. But let's talk about a little bit about when we get into exhaustion. So now we've gone past the level of fatigue. Now we're in exhaustion. So what are we feeling?
Volcanic eruption. Kind of like the first thing that comes to me is like your fuse is short. Sorting it all out, trying to like function on a daily basis, and you get to a point where you feel like, could it just be easier just to check out? It's called depression, suicidal, draw the shades. It gets to be a dark, dark place. And, people call and, or they don't call. They don't start showing up. This is the time that you call your girlfriends and you just say, how are you doing? And you keep calling until they pick up, and you start texting them and you send them some, positive, like you send them just like flowers or something, just something. And they're like, you made my day today. And I sometimes think that, gosh, if it would be like every day, once a month, that there would be like a Valentine's Day to go and just reach out and touch your hearts of your sisterhood and, just really have them know that you do care. And even for me, sometimes it's like, wow, somebody thought of me today. Well, I just really needed that right now. Like, I really needed that right now. So I just think it demonstrates that our bodies are struggling. And of course, our mind, so it goes into the deeper seated systems and our thought processes. And neuroscience does talk about how it is that virtually the dendrites, you think about it like our brain is like trees in a forest, and all of a sudden they lose their branches and some of the trees start dying, and we don't fire the same. And Jojo was talking a little bit about like how important nutrition is. And, you know, we have to go back into what is called homeostasis, and chemicals create balance, and electrically we're firing. So the hypothalamus and the pituitary are your transformers. Imagine the transformer has got a short or some of the wiring just fried, you know? So thinking it like that, you want to bury your head in the sand. You want to, because you can't process thoughts anymore. So minerals become really important because electrically charging all of the connectivity in your brain tells your body what to do. And if we take on things that are in balance, it says, all right, we can actually operate. We can start turning, up a little energy here. And all of a sudden you start noticing like more energy and mental acuity and clarity. And all of a sudden that starts coming back. And people say that when, you lose your brain cells, that they're gone forever. And the truth is, no, it can regrow them. So this is the good news in terms of science. So Jojo, I think I just want to be a little, joy in the conversation, and knowing that it's not forever, and that our bodies are looking for resources. So back to you.
And I know that it can feel like forever, because it really at extreme level, like level 4 adrenal exhaustion, can take up to 2 years to heal, is what they say. So we know that when we add in better nutrition, that helps, right? But we're looking at being diligent about making some lifestyle changes. And, especially with the people that I work with a lot. So I work with a lot of really heavy fitness competitors, real athletes that are really pushing endurance. And when we go, wow, they must be really healthy, because look at their bodies, they look so amazing, but they've pushed themselves so hard and have a lot of times not been consistent with their nutrition, that even on the athlete side, we see this adrenal fatigue happen so often. And so some things that we can do on top of the nutrition aspect of it. So rest when you feel tired. This is so important, because we push through. We're women. We don't need to take a nap, but so not true. If we are feeling tired, we need to start listening to our bodies and rest. Even if it's just for a few minutes, take a power nap. When you feel tired, do that as much as possible as you're starting to heal yourself. 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night. It's so important. And I know that not everyone is getting that. And when I was going through my severe adrenal fatigue, I had to. And if I didn't, I would lose a whole day. But, on top of that, when we think about, they recommended is exercise, absolutely. Moderate exercising, walking, yoga, obviously. We're talking about yoga again, can reduce stress. But here's what I did, is I started to put on weight because my adrenals were freaking out. My cortisol was going up. I had all these crazy things going on. And then I would work out harder. And the harder I would work out, the more it would tax my body, the more my adrenals would go into upset mode, right? The more they would be fatigued, the more I would feel tired. So even though I thought I was doing myself a good favor, I was actually making it worse. So I had to really get the thought out of my head that if I didn't work out so hard that, would be sweating for 2 hours afterwards, that I could do a moderate exercise, that I could just walk and I could still get improvements without totally taxing myself. So just as a thought, side note from what I did, but keep yourself in a positive mode, laugh and do something funny every day. And constantly the recommendation is to avoid staying up late, get yourself on a regular sleep cycle. They recommend you be in bed before 10 o'clock. Even now, I'm so bad at that. I'm just, I'll admit I'm nutritionist, heal thyself. And that's no question. I am never in bed by 10 o'clock, even though I say I'm going to be. But it's something that I'm working on. So minimize your work stress. And I know sometimes that can be difficult depending on the environment that you're in. But the more positive we are and the better nutrition we put in, a lot of times that can help moderate our mood. So avoid negative people. That's why we do this every week, so we can get everybody together and have good positive self-talk, and always take time for yourself. And if you're ever having something traumatic go on, to seek counsel, to seek somebody to talk to, even if it's just, a girlfriend at 3 o'clock in the morning when you need to chat. All of these things can help uplift yourself, reduce the amount of stress in your system, reduce the cortisol. It's like the adrenals and the cortisol, they go back and forth. One affects the other. And it's a really bad teeter-totter balancing act that they do. And so when we can support that all at once, good things, right, Lynn?
Yeah, Jojo, I guess one of the things that when you were just sharing that, I was thinking about like one word, like, what are you worried about? I mean, so when you start thinking about what's your worry? Is there anything you're worried about? And if you could set that aside and say, I'm worried about the fact that my heart sometimes does something weird, or I'm worried about all these spots on my hands, or I'm worried about my energy levels or my forgetfulness, or I'm worried about my taxes, I'm worried about something, right? So what we keep thinking about is going to actually imprint upon us to constantly fuel, fire, and boil, if you will. And it's like a volcanic eruption. And that's the constriction. And I liked, oftentimes they say when stress and we're in overwhelm, guess what? We can't remember things. We can't remember things. And when you say we can't remember things, and the question is what are you stressed about? So if we can say, well, you know what? It's going to be okay. Somehow there's going to be some resolution. Maybe I could inquire. I could look at that. I could ask somebody how they go through that. Just asking questions. And just say, well, I wonder how they handle that. How did you handle all this menopausal stuff? How did you handle all this stress in your life? How do you sort it out? I mean, Jojo, the other day, I was I lost it. I'm in overwhelm. I'm going to take a bath, and I'm going to put some meditation on, and I'm lighting a candle. I can't take on any more today. I'm done. Gone. Checking out. That's what I did. And, the next day kind of looked a little different. So back to you, Jojo.
That's such a good point. I posted, somebody sent me a little video the other day that said, do you have things to worry about in your life? Well, do you have bad things happening? Yes. Well, can you do anything about them? No. Then why are you worrying? If you have bad things in your life and you can do something about them, why are you worried? It was kind of a funny little thing of why are you worrying about anything? Because either way, what are you worrying about? Either you can fix it or you can't. If you can, go fix it. And if you can't, then what are you worried about? So it was kind of a cute little video that I went, yeah, what are we stressing out about, right? But thank you, ladies. Anybody have any questions or anything they want to add in? I know that this is such a big topic, and we have so many that have struggled with it, but would love to get some feedback.
Jojo, maybe an idea would be a book that's wonderful. Dr. Carolyn Leaf, L-E-A-F. has a book that she wrote, is Who Switched Off My Brain? I think it's a wonderful book because it actually talks about some good, flushing mental questions, how to identify, what really is going on, and learning a little bit about the brain. And so if you're kind of like somebody that loves research, and Dr. Carolyn Leaf, she is amazing. You'll love her. So Who Switched Off My Brain is the name of the book. I wanted to actually offer up a little recipe that I just came upon this week because I needed to make something in a hurry, and I wanted something warm. So I threw some water in a pan, and you talked about the carnivorous vegetables and various different things that we can actually put in a pot. Well, you know what, they have like these bags of shredded different kind of vegetables all put together. So I threw them in there, and I chopped up some carrots, and I put some whole entire garlic cloves. I mean, it was the major cloves. Just threw them all in the pan with a little bit of ginger root, and I just cut them in chunks, and I just boiled that all up together, and it was absolutely fabulous. And I threw kale in there. And then when I served it up, I cut my avocado. That was my soup. It's been my soup now for a couple days, but it was that easy, and it was already cut up and ready to go. So, you can get those little salad packages. They go a long ways. I like to get that, if I go up to Costco or whatever. And then sometimes they have like these nuts and various things. So you can throw that on top of, your soup if you like. And so an idea.
It's a great idea. That's a great idea. Thank you. Sounds yummy.
It was fabulous.
I'm a little jealous that I don't have some. I have little friends flying around me tonight. My fairies are flying around my room tonight.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
You were mentioning earlier, and I actually have it because I learned to kind of bathe with it as part of a detox, but why the importance of Himalayan sea salt?
Oh, yes. Very important. It actually balances all of your electrolytes, helps to balance how your blood flow and your oxygen work. It does so many good things. It helps to relieve your muscle aches. Oh my gosh. Let me actually have a whole thing on Himalayan and Celtic sea salt and all of the good benefits of it. But one of the cool things that it does, my chiropractor uses this in his office. Like, you go in and he gives you a little shot of Celtic salt when you walk in the door. Like, that's the first thing he does. But it actually helps to not get your blood flow moving, but it helps to move your make your spinal fluids move also. So when you think of all of the good things it does for the fluids in your body, we get scared of salt, right? Because salt is such a bad thing, but we actually need to have good salt in our system for it to function properly. And, typically it's not, they talk about iodine, and Himalayan sea salt and Celtic, they're not like a way to get iodine in. So we still want to make sure that we're getting that in some way. So just as a side note, if you're lacking iodine and you're trying to get it from salt, you won't be able to get it from Himalayan or Celtic. It's such good stuff. That's a great question. Even to cook with it, to have it, I always cook with it. So I have pink Himalayan sea salt. That's what goes on everything.
Yeah, I used it in the baths for sore muscles and such. So I knew that benefit. But do you have a book or a link that we could reference? I was trying to write. I can only write so fast.
I have a whole. You mean for all the suggestions I gave?
Yeah. Balances electrolytes, sore muscles, and I was like, whoa! And I'm done. Oh, can't hear you.
Muted, unmuted. I don't know what it's doing. I will post up a link in the page and put everything in there, and then we'll put all the suggestions in there for the adrenals too. And then, thank you. And Cassandra just posted up. Thank you for finding something really quick for me. Oh, and trace minerals. Yes, definitely. beneficial trace minerals. Adrenal fatigue reduces hormone. Aldosterone. I have to research that one a little bit. But it's responsible for salt regulation in the body. And then many people will feel better when you consume adequate levels of sea salt. Thanks, Cassandra.
Thank you.
And the trace minerals are important, right? So wherever we can get them from. It was funny because, we work with a really amazing mineral drink called Ionic Supreme, and almost every single thing that they listed herb-wise was listed on the Ionic Supreme label. So I was like, oh, I knew it was good, and I knew it was helping, but I didn't realize like how much. So pretty cool. But I think we lost Liddy. I don't know what happened. Sometimes
Yeah, I saw her fall off a couple minutes ago.
Yeah, I saw her go. I thought she was going to come back, but we are at time, and I hope that was helpful. And if anybody has any question, I'll post up some stuff on the page for Adrenals, and if anybody has any questions, please post them there, and we'll make sure to get them answered. And in the book, we'll post up the book, Dr. Carolyn Leaf, Who Switched Off My Brain. I have not read that one, but I guess it's going on my list. So thank you all for being here, and big kisses to everybody. Have an amazing week. And remember that we're doing the meditation challenge inside of the Empowering Healthy Women page. So on the Facebook page, pinned at the top, there's a post, and it's got the meditation challenge. And then you see if they uploaded the new 5-minute one, because we did a 3-minute one, and now we need to we've moved up to 5 minutes. But it's actually helping me check in every day and really make time to sit and do it. It's forcing me to sit and make time to do it. So, and then if you post in where you meditated, pick a picture, post up how you're feeling, whatever it is, for every little post that you do each day, I'll throw a raffle into a hat, and we'll give some cool stuff away at the end of the month. We like swag, right? We like free stuff. So that'd be a pretty goodie bag for the girls. So cool. Everybody, big kisses. See you next week.